of New Zealand.
Nuk Korako.
Kia ora e te mana whakawā. Around 3 years ago, sir, around about that time, is that I was appointed as the National Party candidate for the Port Hills. Sir, then from there it was around 100 days where I had the opportunity to get out there and also campaign, sir, on behalf of the National Party to get to this House. Sir, what I'm saying here is that the rest is history, but over the last 3 years, I have been out there working hard on behalf of the Port Hills residences. So I've been out there getting to know the Port Hills people, and I've been out there, sir, getting to know what matters actually to our Port Hills constituents. Sir, one of the most important things, and particularly when we talk about what we've been through in Christchurch and Canterbury, back to 2011, back to 2017, sir, talking about earthquakes and fires, one of the things that really matters, sir, is the rebuild of our infrastructure. And, sir, when I think about that, that is really why when I talk to our people on the doorsteps, when I talk to Port Hills people, it is about infrastructure, sir, and it always has been. So when we look at the Port Hills and look at what's happened, sir, since the last sort of 3 years in particular, it's actually been about the construction of that infrastructure. Just look at the way, sir, that a lot of the roads and highway systems in Christchurch, sir, we're all enjoying that as part of Port Hills residences and also of Christchurch itself. Millions upon millions of dollars, sir, of infrastructure spend under this government has actually resulted in what we're experiencing today. When we look at, sir, the construction of cycleways, particularly across the Port Hills, cycleways, sir, where people can walk and run and enjoy it, sir, there's huge benefits in this, and these cycleways, sir, go right across the Port Hills, and there's more to come. When I look at the infrastructure, sir, that this government has invested in, particularly around education, and I only have to, sir, look at, sir, the western side of the Port Hills, where the first school, sir, that actually rose from the rubble was Horswell Primary School. And that was also the first school that was introduced, sir, and it was built under that modern learning environment. So that was the first one, a brand new school, investment in educational infrastructure. When I think of Cashmere, sir, Cashmere High School, Cashmere Primary School, when I think of Horswell Residential College, all of these are beneficiaries of the incredible work that this government has done, sir, under the infrastructure of investment, sir. The other part of this is that let's just go across the Port Hills to the Port of Lyttelton, the largest port in the South Island, the third largest in New Zealand. And when you look at that now, sir, particularly this government put in an infrastructure plan called the Lyttelton Port Plan. What we have out of that now, sir, is that we're going to have a complete reconstructed port. We're going to also, sir, have one of the most modern cruise ship terminals in the whole of New Zealand. $56 million will be spent on this new cruise ship terminal. That is a reflection of what this government has done, sir, since those terrible, terrible situations of earthquake and fire. And the other part, sir, is that the Port Hills people are telling us is that this is the government of infrastructure. When they looked at the last budget, and they can see, sir, that we're going to continue to benefit from these incredible investments that we're doing, sir, particularly around all of those different things. Education, infrastructure and roading, cycleways, and then even when we're looking at manufacturing industries and all of that, sir. This government here is the government of infrastructure, and this government, sir, will continue to deliver, and particularly to the Port Hills people. Kia ora tātou.
The time for this debate has expired. I call on Government Orders of the Day numbers 1 to 4.